Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 136. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Hey, Jay.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Got your head to the sides and I'm angry.
What have you been up to this week?
I'm going to be honest. I had a little bit of a whirlwind of a week. One of my best friends, he actually got a stroke. Really kind of came out of nowhere. He's a young guy, 48 years old.
Well, he had one. He didn't get one. It wasn't like someone came to his house and gave him a special delivery. He opened a box and then he's like, a stroke! And then fell over. I mean, he had one.
Yeah, he had a stroke.
But
so,
that is strange, man.
And they don't exactly know yet, at least, why. So, but it was detrimental enough where, he's still very, very blurry visioned. He's deaf in one ear now. He in and out of pins and needles, still has a difficult time walking, all these kind of little weird things. But luckily, like, cognitive wise, like, his brain is working perfectly fine, it seems like, and there's no signs of anything else. So it is rehabilitable. Like, he's in a rehab right now, so he's in that progress of just hopefully coming out of it.
Scary, man.
It is scary. It is very scary.
He's not too much older than us. Like,
no, and it's and for something like a stroke, this is still on the young side.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
So it sucks. It sucks. He's staying pretty positive about it all. So, Jim, shout out to you. And then this weekend, we actually went to a little golf show, a little golf expedition kind of thing where we just go out, and he was supposed to be there. But, it's just kind of a dick tease for golf fans in the middle of winter to just shop around all this discount stuff, get hyped for the next year. And it was just turned into a whole day bender, like going to the casino for lunch, rolling into like local bars.
That's where you got sick, right there, the casino.
All day drinking and probably the casino.
So many people coming in from all over, carrying different fucking diseases.
Probably.
It might as well be a petri dish.
Because that next day, I was bragging in the morning that I didn't get a hangover.
Right.
Or not as bad as the one as I thought I would.
Because you had blowfish.
And then boom, the fever kicked in hardcore. And so I literally had a high fever. And 101 was the highest, I think. And then it got down to 100. And, this morning it was a 99.8. And then somehow mid-afternoon it sort of snapped. And I just finally got over that fever pitch. But I still sound like shit. My throat's still a little messed up, blah, blah, blah. But at least I have my head back on straight. And I feel a little bit more energetic.
Like fever pitch, like the Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore movie, that popular movie from so long ago.
That was a weird movie. It's not as bad as you think, though. It's still enjoyable, especially if you're a Red Sox fan, probably. But
I'm glad.
But no, it just kind of been like it's been a weird week because it was really sad, and then it turned into like a fun little day, and then it just turned into a horrible few days.
And then you died.
Yeah. We had to push back the podcast because there's no way I could have recorded the other day. So. It's good to be back.
And for me, I didn't do a whole lot. I mean, no one went down. Luckily, everyone's healthy. We did have Logan this weekend, so I got to take her book shopping. She got like a gift card to Barnes and Noble, so kids' books are like super expensive, like more expensive than you would expect. Like she got a $25 gift card that netted her 2 books. One hardback and one like really thin like paperback one, and like even the thin one was $9.99 and the hardback one was like $18.95, and I still shelled out a couple dollars out of my pocket.
It's amazing how expensive they are.
It's so expensive
still,
but I mean there's a lot of art that goes into them and stuff like that. So to pick out the book, I had to read all the books.
Without much further ado, I give you The Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good.
So we're in Barnes and Noble, and right, who shops at Barnes and Noble anymore? But that's where the gift card was for. So that's where we went. So I'm literally sitting there and I'm just reading through each of these children's books while Logan's standing there. And when she gets bored of it, she go, nah, not that one. She'd go grab another one, and I'd have to read that one.
Sure.
Spent like 2 hours picking out books, but the one she really wanted was called A Bad Case of Stripes. Her school teacher apparently read it to her like last year. She changed schools since then, but the book, she's always remembered the book. So
It's a cool name.
We couldn't find it. And she walks up to me and she goes, they don't have it. And I was like, well, hold on. And I made her go to a lady herself, ask the lady, and the lady's like, oh, I know exactly where that's at. And she's like, it was my favorite book when I was a kid. And Logan like lit up. I had to read it right there. She made me read it there. And then we took it home and we read it that night.
Nice.
And then the other one's called I Need My Monster, where a kid's monster goes on, the monster that lives under his bed goes on vacation. So he gets a bunch of substitute monsters and he weeds them all out and until his monster returns. And they're both sweet books. I liked them. I like kids' books. I'm starting to appreciate them now because I have to read them all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like I can actually now tell this is a shit children's book. We're not getting this one. Bah.
But like how they have to tell a story in vivid detail in such a short amount of time, and also make it understandable for the kid, and then for it to work. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't read one forever, so I couldn't really tell you.
Like while doing it, I was like,
but it's probably more at my reading level. Right?
Actually, we'll start you on some of these. We'll put you and Logan in the same reading class.
Yes,
we'll see.
Right.
We'll see who starts getting better grades.
Starts getting.
It's gonna be the kid
who reaches the goosebumps first. Yeah. Who can get to that level.
So other than that, I've been hitting the video games hard, like, because I can't hit the sauce, so I'm hitting the video games. I can't drink, so I'm just
because you can get lost in the video games.
How big's your TV?
Oh, shut up!
How big's your TV? Because I want to know if you can see what's happening.
Oh, wow, you beat a 12-year-old.
I don't care if you're 12 years old. You have more time in the day to play. I live in the real world, my man, with bills and responsibilities.
Hold on, Mom, I'm coming!
You take the fun out of beating you because you have an excuse to lose.
Get a life, dude.
Do you think it's possible that your mom won't love you anymore if she sees how bad you're losing in the game?
Shut up!
I've been playing a lot of Apex Legends. It's a new battle royale game that came out. It's from the same developers as Titanfall and Titanfall 2, two of my favorite shooters that have come out in the past couple of years. So it was a no-brainer to pick that up. I've been playing with some people online, which is not so. I usually when I play online, I play with friends, like people I know, like outside of video game world. These aren't like
right.
But for that, you know, most of my friends who play video games live in Australia. Our schedules don't match up. And that is a squad-based game. I need 2 other people to go in with me, and you have to talk. So it's like, all right. So I started going into like chat boards. I felt like it was like it was like 1997, and I'm fucking logging into AOL. You've got mail. And I'm literally going in.
I remember those days.
And it's like I'm typing age, sex, location. Because I don't want to play.
Oh my God.
I don't want to play with a 16-year-old, you know, a kid and stuff like that. So one night I started playing. I didn't ask these people their ages, and we played until like 4:00 in the morning. And I'm fucking cracking up and laughing with these guys. And like I mentioned something about work and something, and they're like, so what do you do? And I explained. They're like, oh shit, you're like real adult. And I was like, what are you guys like in your early 20s? And then one dude's like, I'm 17, and the other kid's like, I'm 16. And it's like, yeah, we're juniors in high school. And I was like, I've been cursing up a storm and saying like all these fucking awful things, and there's these kids. But
they are 16 and 17.
It was really interesting though, because I got to talk to them about how high school was different for us than it is for them.
Oh, big time.
Like, yeah, and like it was like when we talked to our parents about it and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. Like I found out just how narrow their window of like something that could wind them in a lot of like hot water. Like if they get in a fight in school, forget it. Like that's it. They're homeschooled from then on. They're expelled.
Really?
Yeah. Like the one kid apparently like made a very mundane comment to a girl, and she went to the principal and said she was offended by it, and he got 2 weeks of out of school suspension for his comment, and had to do all of his work from home and stuff. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Like a comment landed me into the principal's office and I got a couple demerits or an after school detention for it. Like, no, that's it.
Yeah, maybe.
You hurt their feelings. Write a heartfelt apology and spend 2 weeks in after school detention. Cool, whatever. Not like, but it was interesting getting to talk to the
Well,
younger.
I know social media and just technology in general plays a huge part in this day and age, but also just learning,
Right.
You can be so much more engaged and so much more involved now with the learning process, I think nowadays more so than when we were in grade school.
But yeah, it was an interesting experience. I had fun playing the game at least.
Oh, that's cool. Hey,
I will
broaden your horizons.
I will vet my partners with probably far less scrutiny now because I still had fun with those guys, even though like
looking for 16 and 17-year-olds only.
No, but what I mean was like I'm not saying they were mature, but they weren't the jackasses that I expected. For being that age, they were quite fun. All right, Jay, you want to get into some of these listener questions?
Sure, let's do it.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
It just raises too many questions.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
As we've been doing for the past couple weeks, we like to reach out on Twitter about 24 hours before we start recording and ask anyone if they have questions for us, or I'll pose a question to the listening audience and they will ask their questions. So we got a bunch of questions to go through this week, but most of them don't involve too much discussion. So the first one comes with Duty of the Shake and Not Nerd podcast. And he says, you get to make a prequel to The Matrix that is about Morpheus being pulled from the Matrix. What time era is it in, and who is playing Morpheus? I had a good actor in mind, someone who they haven't really like taken off yet, but they have had some big screen presence, and I think actually quite, look the part. I'm talking about Ray Fisher. I think Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in Justice League, I think he both could look the part, but also has the acting chops to do it.
I think it's a solid choice, and definitely I think we both agree with the 80s is the best.
1980s.
Absolute
100%.
best time frame to start that off with,
Absolutely.
It's that world. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the best place to put that one. Let's see. Benjamin Hall on Twitter. He wanted to know, is Ghostbusters 3 unbelievable due to the lead actors' ages and the weight of the proton packs? I love this question because, they make mention in the movie that the proton packs are heavy, when they go to put them on. Now, real world, how heavy those packs were? 40 pounds. That's how heavy the proton pack props were. So they were quite heavy and they look heavy. And there's even times where like the Ghostbusters fall over.
Oh yeah, they sell it.
Yeah. When Zool knocks them down, that it's hard to get up. Yeah. It's like a turtle shell on your back. So I say this, when I was a kid, me and my brother had a radio flyer wagon. And we used to put shit in that all the time. That's what these kids are going to be busting ghosts with. They're dragging that radio flyer everywhere, and then they're going to use the proton packs. Look, I don't know how they're going to get around it. Do I think that is a logistical
core strength they've been working on?
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that a logistical problem that Jason Reitman is going to have to tackle? I think so, because eagle-eyed people like Benjamin Hall here are going to call bullshit if those kids put those backpacks on and don't immediately drop. My daughter's 4 years old, and I put her own backpack that she goes to school with, and she immediately falls over. It just throws her balance off so much. Like I
can see that. She's a little thing.
Yeah. The one morning she was like, I want to do it. So I put it on her back.
Oh my God.
And like I was holding her, steadying her, and then I let go and she took a step and she goes, she just falls over and falls on her back and she looks so miserable. So that is going to be a problem.
Oh my God. That's
All
so
right.
funny.
Ziggy wants to know, if 3 characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe were Skrulls from the beginning, who should they be? He's asking for 3. I could think of one right off the top of my head. I think that Black Widow would probably be a shoo-in for it. And then Scarlet Witch.
I don't know this question.
So, all right. So Skrulls are a big...
I still need to educate myself. I'm hoping that Captain Marvel educates me on this.
Right. So Skrulls are a big deal now for the MCU because they are going to be making their first MCU appearance in Captain Marvel. There was a huge storyline about, let's say, 8 to 10 years ago that was called Secret Invasion, where it turned out that a lot of the superhero characters you've been following in the comics have actually been secret Skrulls the whole time. Now, it matters in the MCU whether Skrulls are able to replicate powers of people it
sounds like a get out of jail free card.
It could be.
They can literally do anything, whatever, any given time. It's like
right. So
I don't like it.
So let's just go with and I'm saying Scarlet Witch and Black Widow, and it's possible that if they separate,
does it have to be female?
No, it could be male too.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, I really can't think of anyone. It'd be fucking nuts if Tony Stark was one now. Like that would be truly nutty if it was Tony Stark. But one person we know it probably wouldn't be is Spider-Man, because Sony doesn't want them messing with their money banks there. But I'm gonna go with Tony Stark, Black Widow, and Scarlet Witch. Those are the ones. All right. Movie Reviews in 20 Questions podcast wants to know what the fuck? Why? Reboot is going to be announced soon. And I've said this about 2 episodes ago. I think it's coming. I think Back to the Future reboot is in the works. I don't know why I get the feeling that it is. I just feel like that's something that shouldn't be touched, and it's going to be.
Yeah.
That or Goonies, because they've been dangling the Goonies sequel thing over the past couple of years. They had the cast get back together. They even talked about the Warner Brothers even talked about doing a sequel with them all older and stuff. And then there was some issues, and they never got off the ground.
It makes sense, with the surprise hit of It and Stranger Things and this kind of thing. It's in that kind of
inspired
nostalgia wheelhouse with the horror and fun, excitement and mystery. It would make sense.
And if there's anything we learned, when they try to do a long-awaited sequel and it doesn't pan out, they go, fuck it, let's reboot it. That's why we got Ghostbusters. So that's my thing. I think it's going to be Back to the Future. I don't want it to be, but
ever. I know. Me neither.
It's going to be. And which is funny. It's almost serendipitous that later on we have a question that will tie into this. So they also want to know, conversely, what movie would you actually like to see rebooted, remade, or whatever? And I said this in the same episode. I want The Rocketeer to be remade and kind of updated and bring it to, because it's a very 90s movie. I like it. But it's a guy from the World War II era, a test pilot who gets his hands on a jetpack and he fights off Nazis, a secret Nazi that's hiding within Hollywood, and it ends on a Zeppelin. It just, the action wasn't there. Like they couldn't film the action well enough given the technology at the time. But bringing it up to today's standards with today's technology, I think they can actually make a pretty brilliant Rocketeer movie, and I'd like to see it. Not to mention, it goes back to that picture that I put up with Captain America, Indiana Jones, and the Rocketeer all together, all owned by Disney. Let's just make that happen, baby.
Okay.
What film from the last year that wasn't nominated for anything is going to become a legit classic? One of my favorite movies of 2018, and one that was on my top 5 list that I truly loved, was Upgrade. Logan Marshall Green was fantastic in it. I loved that world. I loved the gritty sci-fi violent horror. And I think that's one that, like, in years to come is going to have some huge legs. Or it would be Annihilation, the Alex Garland film. I think that
solid choice.
I think that has legs in the sci-fi realm. I don't know if it'll ever be as big as like Blade Runner or The Thing or Alien or anything like that, but
I don't think so. But I believe it's going to be held up as far as rewatchability.
Exactly.
A lot of people to discuss certain aspects of that movie, and I think the visual aspect too holds up as well.
Exactly. And then the other one, and this is just a personal one of mine, Ready Player One. It didn't get a lot of love.
That's the controversial choice right there.
I like that movie a lot, and I don't know why a lot of people don't. I didn't read very many negative reviews, but I didn't read anyone who was like, "Oh, I loved it." And it's like, it took me a while to really enjoy it. The first time I saw it, I was ho hum on it. Second time I watched it was when it came to HBO. I was like, "Yeah, it's slightly better." But then for some reason, I ended up watching it more times, mainly because like I was over my brother's and he put it on and we watched it together, and we were having just fun picking out all these references and stuff like that. And then it just became something that I can, because it's so readily accessible on HBO, I can just throw on.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that has some legs, especially if a sequel comes out and the sequel does really well too. It'll only elevate this one.
And for me, it's Leave No Trace. I just think that one held up the most for me as far as being a 100% completed movie. Really, really solid and well done.
All right, Jay. Gerald from 2 Peas on a podcast. He would like to know, when is the last time you cried at a movie while also having a boner? So when we get into what have you been watching this week, I did see Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary, and I did shed a few tears during that. However, I immediately wanted to shoot that to him as a response because I had just watched it that day, and then I read the second part that you had a boner during. I did not have a boner during Mr. Rogers.
I just can't imagine how you could. I mean, it just doesn't go hand in hand with me. I don't know.
But according to Gerald, it's the red cardigan that should have done it for me. And the tennis shoes.
Oh gosh.
I can't think of like any movie that's made me cry while having a boner. I mean, I guess if there was a porno that had just like a really good emotional through line in it, I might get a boner by being like, but she has cancer. It's so sad. This is the last guy who's ever gonna pound her like that.
I don't know. I mean, God, I don't know. I can't think of anything.
This is the last time she's ever going to be a center of an orgy because she has cancer. It's so sad. I have no clue, Gerald. I wish I could give you a better answer than that, but I just can't. All right. Robert from 9 to 5 Nerds podcast. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on Affleck leaving and who could replace him? That's part one of the question. And we did talk about this a little bit in the news last week with Affleck leaving. I'm cool with it. I think it was something we all saw coming. He's apparently been done for a long time, but Warner Brothers didn't want to officially announce it until they had more news to give people on the Batman. Now they have more news. They have more stuff that they can release about it. So they're comfortable saying that Ben Affleck is done. And if he wasn't into it anymore, or he felt that, he couldn't deliver his best anymore. And that's kind of like what he was saying. Not to mention, he's been going through a lot of personal issues as well as substance abuse issues and stuff like that. It all could wind up equaling tragedy for the film, you know, which we all really want to do well because everyone loves Batman. So I'm okay for those reasons of him leaving. I did enjoy him as Batman. I thought he was really good as Batman.
Me too.
I think he's one of the best actors to do really well, both playing Batman and Bruce Wayne. And he looked fantastic in the suit and stuff. But he's gone. And who I would like to replace him, I believe I said this as well last week, is Richard Madden. He played Robb Stark. We just saw him in Bodyguard on Netflix, and I think he is young enough that they can get by with that younger storyline. But I think he has that brooding nature that really works. Sure. And I
think it's a strong choice. And I'm going to also throw a name out there, Finn Wittrock. I think there's a chance that he could be up and running there, and I think he's got the look. I think he's got the capability to do the brooding young version of Batman. But
he's
also
so good looking now. Like I've
seen him in some stuff, and he's a good actor. So he's pretty diverse.
So he's in American Horror Story. You might remember him from the Freak Show season where he played Dandy, I believe was his name.
Right.
But yeah, he's very pretty though.
I know,
he's very pretty.
I know he's very pretty. But there's something there that I feel like he can play. If they're gonna do a young Batman, I think he's a solid choice.
If you slap tits on him and he tucked it back, I might. He is pretty.
He is. He would not last in jail. Yeah.
He may make a good Dick Grayson though, because Dick Grayson's supposed to be
that's where his name first got caught up in that world, and so fans wanted him to do play that role. But this is we'll see how it goes. But there's a lot of interesting choices out there.
All right, fair enough.
For the studio.
All right, Jay, and he also wants to know how we feel about Daniel Kaluuya putting on the cowl. And I think, he's a fantastic actor.
Especially after seeing Widows, you see him playing the bad guy very well.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've seen him.
And it's not like Batman's a bad guy, but Batman has a dark side, so you almost want someone who has that.
He has that menace inside of him.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I can't see it, but I do like him as an actor quite a bit.
I do worry that, like,
say.
if he was cast, do I think he'd do a fantastic job? Hell yeah. Would it bother me at all? No. I don't mind when they change things up like that. Like that, they've changed races for a lot of characters. I just wonder if they did that, would that news overshadow the film? And is that
it's kind of like the whole James Bond thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean,
if Idris Elba became James Bond, would that?
And I everybody knows that I was against that. I just thought it was going to be too jarring for everybody, and I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like in time, we will be getting those things to happen, but maybe it's a little too soon.
I don't know if it's too soon,
or maybe not so too soon, but like,
right.
You got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point.
I don't know whether the people who run the studios are quite ready to make that leap. I don't know if any bigwigs at Warner Brothers are willing to do that. But yeah, I think he can make a fantastic Batman. There has been an African American Batman before. Stan Lee Presents, Stan Lee rewrote origins for a lot of the DC superheroes, and Batman was one of them, and he made him African American in that. So if they did start doing like those Elseworlds type thing, I think people would buy it in that case. But recasting it after having Ben Affleck and stuff, I don't think enough audiences would go for it, and I don't think that the studio would make such a drastic change, but I think he would knock it out of the park for sure. All right, Mike, and Oscar want to know, do we think that we will rewatch the original Aladdin before the remake? Will you choose to rewatch it over seeing the remake, or neither? So I'll let Jay field this, because I have a 4-year-old daughter who loves Disney princesses, and I see Aladdin multiple times in a month, whether I want to or not.
Well, I used to own the Sega Genesis video game, actually, way back when. I was a huge fan of the original, the movie, the music. I am not so far on anything to do with any teaser trailer so far for this property. I will rewatch it probably before I do see this movie, I think, to be honest. And I'm not sure if that's going to help or hurt my viewing experience. Probably hurt it. I don't know exactly, but I think it's still, I don't really give a shit. I'm going to watch it probably before I see it in theaters, and because it has been a very, very long time since I've seen it, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, I mean, for me, I'm going to watch it probably 15 dozen more times before the Aladdin movie actually comes out, and I probably will take Logan to see the Aladdin movie. I will do my best to separate the two, like I did with Beauty and the Beast, and like I did, with Cinderella and some of the other ones that they've made. There are a lot of people who were asking us about it. So Cinematically Correct wants to know how we feel about the live action remake of Aladdin. Do we think that Will Smith will make a good genie? We also have Pranav, who asked us, what do you think of a shot-for-shot remake Disney is doing right now? Does it add anything else other than nostalgia? Or is it really enriching the movie-going experience? So as far as that stuff goes, I would say that I'm not, they're not always shot-for-shot remakes. There are differences between the Beauty and the Beast that came out live action and the Beauty and the Beast from the animated one from 1989, I think that came out. And they took a lot of liberties with the Cinderella live action that they did, and they caught a lot of flack for that. Mm-hmm. Like, they caught a lot of flack for it. So it might have made them gun-shy, because that movie didn't do too well. And
they've been more successful by sticking to quote unquote the script, of the story and the bullet points.
However, I'm not sure whether it is 100% nostalgia. I mean, you got to remember, for us,
a lot of it is
going to see it. It's nostalgia for me, for Jay, for my wife, for most of you listening to this podcast.
It's our generation who are the parents now, bringing their own kids into the theaters.
Right. And I mean, making movies now, everything's got to be a franchise. And with franchises, just like Marlboro cigarettes, you got to hook them while they're young. You gotta hook them while they're young. It's what Star Wars has been trying to do. I mean, that's Disney's new mantra, is to get people in. If they get them in at a young age, they continue pumping out movies that speak to them, that speak to their parents. You're going to keep bringing those kids. It also floods people into the Disney parks and floods their pockets again. I mean, that's what it's all about. So it is twofold. It's nostalgia, but they also have to service a new fan base. And they don't.
It's a different kind of viewing experience, right? So you're going to have your animation side, you're going to have your live action side. As long as they can produce still a quality movie that, you know, satisfies the viewers and the fans, they're okay, because they're going to make the money.
Exactly. And as for how the genie looks, I tried to watch that trailer knowing full well that special effects are not complete on that yet. Was I happy with the way he looked? No, his head kind of seemed like it was still like floating around like Mark Ruffalo's in the Hulkbuster armor in Infinity War. But I know the effects aren't done on that yet. It was a little blobby. I know they're going to go in, they're going to add some detail to it. But as far as like Will Smith's performance goes, we're not going off a whole lot, right? We're going off of one line that he says.
You really don't know who I am. Genie, wishes, lamb, none of that ringing a bell.
It felt a little too much Will Smith.
I don't think Will Smith can be anything but Big Willy. Like, he's Big Willy. That's who he is. And
I guess. I mean, and honestly, this was kind of how I envisioned him trying to look like the genie in that garb. And it was like kind of weird to actually see it and hear it, and it just doesn't work for me. And maybe it just takes a little bit more time to kind of marinate in it, but
that's not the big problem for me. The big problem for me is really
difficult
when Jafar tells him to bring him the lamp in the earlier part of that teaser trailer, and he's like,
"Okay,
bring me the lamp,"
and I'm like, that's not what you sound like. Jafar had like depth and gravitas to his voice. Touch nothing, bring me the lamp. Like, what's with this guy? He's like,
bring me the lamp. Bring me the lamp, Aladdin. Bring me the lamp.
He's like this. It's literally like someone walked up, kicked Jafar in the balls, and he goes, ooh. He's got like this such a high pitched voice.
I don't know.
And he's very young, right? Like I'm not buying the whole like twisted evil sorcerer that he is. I'm looking at this guy and I was just like, I mean, he looks like a Saudi prince on Instagram. Like, I don't know what else I don't know what to make of him. So look, me and Jay are both, I'm probably more on board for these remakes than Jay is. I'm not all for them doing this forever though, you know. I think this is going to be a fad for the next 2 or 3 years for Disney, and then they're going to back off of it. I think you know, you get it,
or they're going to at least scale down.
Exactly. I think Dumbo is going to be a big flop, and I think Lion King is going to be a huge seller. They'll probably do 1 or 2 more after that. I think rumors are Pinocchio has now been greenlit. They got Mulan. They got several other ones that are going to be live action coming out. But I think I
think Dumbo is going to be a hit. I don't think it's going to flop.
If they start having missteps, if they start, you know, doing solo numbers, you'll see them go like, yeah, turns out we're not doing Mulan. Turns out we're not doing Pocahontas. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. They're being very open about course correcting these days over there at Disney.
But like, I mean, obviously Lion King's going to be a huge hit. But like you said, if Dumbo actually does flop and Aladdin actually flops, that's going to be a big shift in Disney's schedule going forward with these remakes.
All right, Jay, we're down to our last 2 questions. We're going to start wrapping this up. So Chris from A Dash of Science, who, you know, we will talk about later on, he wants to know, The Martian gets a lot of chatter for being pretty good with its science in a lot of places. Are there any other movies you know of that just really nailed a lot of the aspects of science behind the film? And, you know, I could think of one that I was just watching because I had to do it for movie homework, Gattaca. And I'm not sure whether it was scientifically accurate at the time that it was made. However, with CRISPR technology and stuff that has all come out, we can edit genes. Now that the whole human genome has been mapped, we can do what's been done in that movie. And that future is a very real possibility. Yeah. More so now than it was in 1997. So whether they meant to or not, it is.
It's very, very true. And I think it was a little bit ahead of its time. And also for me, I would say her is, you know, it's almost now current in this day and age with, you know, falling in love with a with a program operating system service where you purchase this kind of high tech and technology that is customized to you and your desires or whatever you're seeking, and to adapt and learn and mold into almost a non-physical person to have a relationship with. And I think it's going to be around certainly in probably in a decade or two. And I think it's going to be a very addictive thing for a lot of people, as it does in the movie. And you can see how that evolves.
And when Her came out, Apple Home and Alexa, those things weren't as prevalent as they are now. But if you think about it, a lot of people have those things running their houses. And as time goes on, those things are going to get more and more sophisticated and should become more and more like an artificial intelligence until they actually do it. And the thing becomes sentient, grows arms, and then just fucking kills you.
Yep.
It puts you in the oven and cooks you alive.
And actually, but also, there's other movies out there like the shitty Transcendence movie. That had a great concept that really holds a lot of truth to today. Still to this day, it was just a poorly done movie.
Well, apparently, Gravity was supposed to be like and Interstellar, but Interstellar has a lot of like quantum theory and stuff like that involved in it. However, I have actually listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson do commentary on these movies, and I love it because all these movies that I thought were super scientifically accurate aren't. Like Interstellar apparently has some, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, has some egregious errors in it. Even The Martian, he did say that is the closest thing that people have like really gotten to. However, there are certain things that don't make sense. So he says like just the physics of the windstorm on Mars, given how powerful they can be, wouldn't actually happen that way. But he understands that it was done for reasons. So as long as the film makes me believe it,
that's all.
That's what matters.
Yeah, it's true.
That's all that matters. That's the big deal.
Because again, it's science fiction, right?
That's absolutely right. All right, Jay, and the final one is the Latin X Point of View podcasts. They want to know, if they remade Back to the Future, who would star in it today as Marty McFly and Dr. Brown?
Whoa, this is heavy.
Fuck you, dude. Because like I said, serendipitous. It's like he knew that's the movie that I would say.
This is hard.
So first off, don't remake it. Don't put that don't you put that evil on me by having me cast it. But I think like some easy shot in the barrel guys, Zac Efron to be Marty. However, I think Marty needs to be a little bit more nerdy, maybe a little bit more of an outcast. I
think we got the right guy.
Ansel Elgort, right?
Ansel Elgort.
Yeah,
I think that's our guy
because he's got to go back in time. Dun, 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 gotta go back in time.
I can't see anybody else but him, and I know he would do it too, probably because he's that kind of actor right now that he's just chomping at the bit, and he's getting casted with all these great directors, and he was just cast in fucking Spielberg movie.
Yeah, another guy that I think would do great is Ty Sheridan. Ready Player One. Come on, he's already driven the DeLorean. Why not? He's already with Spielberg.
Another solid choice.
And if they did a reboot of Back to the Future, Spielberg would still be producing it.
Yeah.
So
now, what about Doc? Because there's endless possibilities with that. All
right, so for me, I came up with like Christoph Waltz. I think having it like a German immigrant
I can see
scientist,
it, but it's a little ho hum. I was thinking like Johnny Depp because he's kind of that age.
The other one I went with was Christopher Walken.
Too old.
Listen, Marty. Maybe there is a plutonium gas station on every corner in 1985, but 1955. It's a terrible walk-in. I have a worst walk. I hit my head on a sink and I came up with the flux capacitor.
God, I feel like we're missing somebody. There could be somebody perfect for it.
Well, let's let other people just reach out to us.
Reach out to us then.
Let us know who you think would play Marty and who you think would play Doc Brown. I still go with Christoph Waltz. I love Christoph Waltz. There's a lot of things he does.
I still go with just don't touch it.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't want
Don't do that at all. But so let's head over and let's get into what are you watching?
What are you watching?
What are we watching?
He's trying to watch some illegal channel.
Always watching.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
All right, Jay, what were you watching this week?
Well, as I mentioned, I think an episode or two ago, that I have never seen LA Confidential.
Okay.
Well, I finally saw it. And, I get it. It is a solid noir classic. I mean, it's very well done.
Before we go any further, while you were watching LA Confidential for pleasure, did you do your work? Did you do your movie homework?
I did.
Okay. Did you watch the movie Cocktail that we're supposed to be doing on Patreon, Serenity?
I did.
Oh, my God.
I am 100% up to date.
I should make you sick every week so you do what you're fucking supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is going to turn into a misery thing like very quickly. I'm going to eventually just tie you to a bed and break your knees and make you
one
watch
of the
all
two
movies.
I could see being homework. The one I really enjoyed and I thought it was a great surprise. The other one, I don't understand why it's homework. It's shit. So, yeah.
All right. So, LA Confidential. Yeah, it is like one of those. I think like it just didn't. I don't know why a lot of people don't talk about it as much today. I see it on a lot of lists for like why it's so great, but I don't like hear a lot of people like praise it anymore. Like
it's kind of an old style of movie making. It's LA. It's 1997 movie. It's got a lot of cliches that I think are a little dated. With how you handle situations and how you treat law, the public. Women, there's a lot of stereotypes that are kind of old school. And granted, it is set in the 50s. We don't do that anymore in the movies anymore, especially with these kind of big projects with these ensembles.
Right. When they try to do it, they wind up with Mob Squad or what was it? Mobster Squad?
It was Gangster Squad.
Gangster Squad. Yeah. So memorable. I can remember the name. Ryan Gosling's worst movie ever.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What else did you watch this week?
I saw Suspiria. That was Luca Guadagnino's horror movie that he remade.
The remake of the Dario Argento classic.
Have you seen it?
I've seen the original. I have not seen the new one.
Okay. Did you like the original?
I love the original.
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious to see what the original is. I think I might give it a shot one day. This movie is beautifully well shot it is, with the production values and even with some of the acting and direction and all that, but it just doesn't work. It's so somber. It's so long. I mean, it's a 2.5 hour movie and there's no payoff. There's the horror when it comes finally, like towards the final act. And they're all based in acts, so it's like 5 acts or something like that. Right. You are so done with this movie and being in this world where like you just don't care.
I hear a lot of people
very underwhelming overall as a film whole.
From what I hear, as far as like a film, its atmosphere is crazy.
Oh, it's there.
It's crazy, but as far as like story goes and stuff, it really lacks any type of cohesion that people would come to expect in films of today.
You need somebody to reel them in a little bit more.
Right, but when I watch a movie from the 70s, especially one that's kind of like considered like a horror art house classic, I kind of expect that from it, Mm-hmm. But when you get it in a modern film, I think that's what's like throwing a lot of people off is like the sentiment isn't there because it isn't like a classic.
And he is a patient filmmaker, so he doesn't shy away from dead space and time on screen. Like he's not going to be quick to the cut. So this kind of did him a disservice in this kind of genre in this world.
All right, that's awesome, man. I do still want to see the 2018 Suspiria. However, I'm sure, like while I enjoyed the 1977 one, it's not anything I go back to a lot, and I really appreciated it. So I highly doubt I'll appreciate this one as much as I appreciate that one. For me, I really only got into watching one thing. Other than True Detective, which I thought this week's episode was one of the most solid, one of the best episodes they've had in the season so far. But I got around to watching, because it just came to HBO, Won't You Be My Neighbor? It is the story of Fred Rogers and his one-man crusade to bring education to children, but not even like education. He just wanted to talk to children on an emotional level. And it's crazy, while I was watching it, because like he was kind of like such a pioneer with this quiet little show that wound up becoming such a phenomenon. And I think it's because of his heart that he put into it that it did. But Jay, there's some crazy shit that actually like went on that. So, Robert F. Kennedy was killed. and he did this episode where he has a woman blowing up a balloon. And then the cat, David, who basically, acted kind of as like his proxy, while she's blowing it up, he asks her to let the air out, and she starts letting the air out. And the cat, in this little kid's voice, goes, "What's assassination mean?" And the reason he wanted to do that is because kids are watching the news with their parents. Their parents are talking about assassination all over the place. And for a 4 or 5 year old kid, what does that even mean? All kids know is someone got hurt on TV. And now everyone's using this word. And it's something that a kid would ask. So he kind of wanted to not shy away from topics like that.
Sure.
Talk to kids about that. He even did an entire series, like an entire week on death. Like he started out by looking at the fish tank. He always fed the fish on the show, and he goes, "Oh, look at that down there. Do you guys see a dead fish in there?" And he's like, "You can tell it's dead because it's not moving like the other fish." And he talked about death and stuff like that. So he didn't shy away from tough topics with kids, but he did it by talking to them on their level, which is what made him so popular. And then, you come to find out that later on, he kind of comes under fire later on in his career because, a lot of people point the finger at him for millennials and stuff. And they're saying it's because of you that everyone thought they were supposed to be so special, and they're not. And the way he always defended himself was, "I never said that anyone would go on to do great things, but that all of you are special in a way that you deserve love. Even in being mundane, you're still deserving and should be accepting of love." And that's the only message he ever wanted to give to people. He never wanted a child to feel unloved, which is why his show always felt so intimate and so personal. But he also, like we were talking about Suspiria, he didn't shy away from awkward moments. He at one point put an egg timer down. He set it for a minute, and he sat in silence while the egg timer ticked down. And he goes, "That's how long a minute is."
That's great.
That's great. Right. But for a kid, our parents tell them, "Wait a minute, wait 1 minute, please." And to a kid, it's okay now. How about now?
Right.
This is what a minute is.
Right.
So it's kind of I really liked the heart that went into this as well. All the people who talked about him, they had such a loving and fondness for him. And even I didn't know this, but the guy who played the police officer on it was gay. And for a while, Fred Rogers didn't want that getting out. He was actually seen at a gay bar at one point, and Fred Rogers came to him and said, "You know why we can't have that?" But later on, as things got more progressive and stuff, and I think, Fred Rogers got closer with him and stuff like that, he allowed him to be a little bit more open about it and told him that it was okay, and that he's always known and he's always, respected him and stuff. And people had always accused Fred Rogers of also being gay, and that guy was like, "No, no, my gaydar's on point." And he was not. But it's honestly truly fascinating, and it teaches you a lot about not only the man but also the beginnings of public broadcasting, and kind of the milestone that was, and kind of what that started and how involved.
Yeah, I really did want to see this before we recorded so I can talk about it as well, but I will get to it eventually. Now, I know there's an absolute head-scratching uproar about why this is not nominated for an Academy Award under the Best Documentary segment. So do you agree? I mean, I'm sure, obviously you haven't seen all the other nominees, however, but do you think this is worthy of a nomination? I think it does. I heard nothing but good things about it.
No, it 100% does, because it's not only talking about an iconic TV figure that all of us are familiar with, but it's telling you a lot of things about
life, right? The message and everything.
Right. The subject matter in it that I don't think it's not a message that we really get much anymore. It's not there for youth or even for us as adults and stuff, where, he also, not only did he do a children's show, he also did adult shows too, on PBS, where he actually took a break for a very long time. He was one of the first people to syndicate himself. He had 164 episodes, all stored up. And he basically announced on the show, one time, he's starting, next week, we're going to start replaying them all from episode 1 all the way up while he went off and did other things. And a lot of what he did was adult programming for PBS, where he talked with people in prison. You know, he talked with people from different careers and stuff like that. And he kind of brought the same message, but to adults. And, you know, I don't think a lot of people know that. And I think it's something that, I think we're missing in our world. And I think like that's why everyone gravitated to it so much when this came out. Not only is it recognizable, but it's sending a message that we all are kind of lacking.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it could have been nominated, and I don't think anyone would have. I've now not seen it. I don't know whether it should have won or not, but you know, I really, really enjoyed it. And there were several times where, I did get choked up, and, but I'm sure I will. I absolutely loved it. And it actually gave me kind of like something to, in a personal level, made me connect with Mr. Rogers more, because I didn't know this, but growing up in his adolescence, he was chubby. You know, he was, and inside, you know, he had some insecurities and stuff about that. And they talk about how he's always been 143 pounds his entire life, and he would get on the scale and he never wanted it to change from that 143 because he had been so big at one point. And for me, like watching it, it's just kind of sobering to know that even when he's past that point in his life, it has left such a scar on him. Cause I feel like even, you know, with how much, you know, I try to diet and I lose weight, I look at that and I think like, I probably will never be okay with myself. It's probably just something that I need to become comfortable with myself first. I need to love myself first before I can start, you know, really caring about my body and stuff like that. And it's something that, you know, it just spoke to me and it's a very small moment in the documentary, but it's something that like really spoke to me.
That's all it takes sometimes. Yeah.
But like after it, you know, I really was thinking, and I was like, every time we watch the news or we look around in the world and we think that things are pretty shitty and that people in general are just shitty, you can always remember that Fred Rogers was a real person and he existed. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the world kind of seems a little bit better because you know that it can produce a gem like that every now and then. So I really enjoyed the documentary, and I hope so now it's on HBO. Everyone gets a chance to kind of see it. It had a very limited theater release. So now that it's available for a more wider audience, I hope people really take the time to check it out, especially if you grew up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It gives you some insights into the man in a cardigan and tennis shoes. All right, Jay, so let's head over and let's get into our movie homework for this week. Movie homework this week. I got around to watching a film that you've had on my movie homework for quite some time, and you got to watch one that I just added to your list last week. So why don't we start off with you, man? What was the film that you watched?
Attack the Block.
Yeah, boy. I love this movie.
Yes, 2011's movie. So this was I've vaguely heard of this title for a little while now, and it's written and directed by Joe Cornish, and this guy hasn't done a terrible amount of stuff as far as directing wise for any kind of real substance, or I mean really he's done some little things here and there, but Attack the Block is his only real hit. And he just did the Kid Who Would Be King, which comes out I think just this past week or so. It doesn't look anything special. Just put it looks like a studio fluff movie.
It really does.
Let's just be honest. But this movie is hardly that. It really packs a punch. It is extremely British.
It's also
with its slang, and
it's also executive produced by Edgar Wright.
It is, and you know it does star John Boyega.
That's
I mean, this might be one of his earlier films, and
this is the movie that got
15-year-old kid.
This is the movie that got him the role for Finn.
It makes sense because he does play a really good leading man.
Yeah,
and he's our shithead teen gangsters. In South London, and they're just simply trying to protect their block.
That's right.
From this weird, random alien invasion that nobody understands. They never really explain.
Right, but they will fight over their block, like with other rival gangs or whatnot.
Yeah.
But everyone will come together when the block is attacked. And I love the way it starts with like the bald, naked, like alien thing. Like, it's an orangutan, it's this, it's that. And they're all like, it's something crazy, man. We're going to take it and sell it for money.
Yeah, they just don't know what to do. I mean, it's a really well done movie. Like as far as the direction and the writing and you know, it's all in one night. It's all taking place in one night, and just like how the shit show just snowballs into more and more confusion and chaos, and just trying to survive and figure out how to defeat these fuckers.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, one of the things that I love about it is it does a fantastic job of blending that sci-fi action with comedy, right? But it's also with teenagers, so it adds that level of immaturity that you know, you can allow yourself to kind of laugh at how immature they are and stuff like that at times.
Oh yeah, even little nuances like, you know, one kid's in a dumpster hiding.
Yeah.
And he's leaving like a voicemail or something to his mom. He's like, I promise I'll never do anything bad ever again. Like, oh my God. Like, everyone has said that at one point or another when they're a kid.
But I also love the creatures in this, man. Like, because they are like these bumbling apes, sort of.
But also in the first, I would say maybe the first half or so, they really did a good job at not really showing them.
No, just if you got a glimpse of it was a blob.
Yeah, very, very sparse.
Absolutely. And I just love the effects for them. They're like these black morbus blobs that move like apes, but then when they open their mouth, they have these bright neon like colors inside their mouth. Yeah. And it's like it was interesting. Yeah,
they did a good job with it.
Interesting creature design. Nick Frost is hilarious in it as well as the weed dealer.
He's a solid weed dealer.
It's dude. If you haven't seen it, I encourage everybody
I do.
to get out there.
If you
to
guys
see
like this kind of genre, it easily could fly under everybody's radar. Go seek it out. It's really fun, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jay, I got around to watching something that you've been trying to get me to watch for some time. I watched Gattaca with who I gotta assume is like your original Ryan Gosling, someone that you loved so much, Ethan Hawke. Like, you love Ethan Hawke. And Jude Law.
I do. Both of them.
And both of them are in this.
It was like movie porn. Yeah.
So this was written and directed by Andrew Niccol, and he's also known for The Truman Show and The Host, which it's very strange. That real shitty film from 2013. It's kind of like his filmography kind of like drops off at a certain point.
Well, he's done a lot of trial and error movies.
Right. But he did direct Lord of War, which is actually a film that I really
love that movie.
Enjoy. So the story of Gattaca is about, it's not even like a dystopian future. It's a not too distant future where they have mapped the human genome and are able to genetically create superior humans. They can take out things unwanted, things as little as male pattern baldness or a fat gene, but they also take out serious illnesses, cancer, congenital heart disease, stuff like that. You know, they're able to take all that stuff out. But then what winds up happening, because of the popularity of this and because it becomes more standardized, it becomes more affordable. And people of even lower stature, middle class or so, are able to afford genetic editing for their children. And what winds up happening is a class system of those who, and I love the word for them, degenerates, who are people who are unedited, or the nicer way they put it, that Uma Thurman puts it, a god baby. Like, you know,
right.
Know, someone who was born out of love and not necessarily from a lab. And, you know, those and the genetically superior. And that's the way it becomes. It's no longer a system of like, what color is your skin? It's more of a system of, you know, what do you got under the hood? Like,
sure.
And the less,
that's what it's all about.
Yeah. The less genetic defects you have, the more opportunities you'll have in society. And it's about, you know, this one guy, Vincent, who is played by Ethan Hawke, who has a dream of going to space, but because of his genetic makeup and not being edited, no one will give him the time of day. So he has to pretty much hire a man and a doctor, played by Tony Shalhoub, the doctor, and the man is Jude Law, to basically switch identities almost, or he take over his identity. And because everything in this society runs around DNA, you know, your punch card for work is your DNA. You know, you have to give blood to go into work. There is so much piss and blood in this movie. Like, this movie is like like half this movie is opening the refrigerator and seeing vials of blood and piss. Like, I swear to God. But that's the level, just
the level of security, but also scrutiny. Like, they are supposed to be perfect human beings. So, also for security purposes, like, they're going through these tests, right? And he wants to be an astronaut. That's really what it is. He's going through the test to like become but really an astronaut of some sort. So he has to meet these qualifications to get to that point.
But really, what the film is truly about, it's about destiny. Yeah. It's about that we can make our own path, and hard work can pay off.
And that's really what it is.
But in this society, that's not enough. So he has to take the extra steps to do it. But nothing is impossible. Like, he tells Uma Thurman, she's better off than him genetically. However, she still has a minor heart defect, which keeps her from ever going into space. But there's that moment where they're touching each other's chests, and he's like, feel mine. It's just like yours, and you can do it too. You just kind of have to take some unrealistic steps to get there. Yeah. But all of his whole world comes crashing down when there is a murder at his work, and someone gets a hold of a minute little eyelash, and they're able to find out that there's someone in there who's not supposed to be there. He left a piece of himself behind, his real self, Vincent, not Jerome, who he's been playing. So I liked that little tie-in and stuff like that. And, I watched a couple things about people like reviewing it and stuff after I watched it. And a few people mentioned that the murder was inconsequential to the story. And it's like, no, it's extremely important to the story. The resolution of the murder, of who committed the murder is inconsequential. Like, that doesn't matter. Who actually committed the murder doesn't matter. The fact that it happened and leads him to this cat and mouse game with the police, and always trying to fool them into thinking that he is Jerome and not Vincent. The twist at the end, which I don't want to spoil for anybody who hasn't seen it, I was not particularly in love with, though. So that there is a twist at the end, which I felt like was very tacked on. This film could have handled it in like a different way. Although I do love how like there are some people that, while he thinks he's been brilliant this entire time and he's fooled so many people, it turns out he fooled less people than he actually thought. There's just other people that are like him or think like him and feel that there should not be a caste system like this, and that there is no such thing as genetic superiority. One of the things that I found like pretty haunting was the test that they do on babies. Like, it's minutes after a baby's born, they take the baby's blood from the heel and they run it and they see if there's any defects and stuff like that, and that's it. You are now predisposed to all the stuff that's on this list. They say like 1 in 100 chance that thing is correct. 1 in 100, Jay, out of billions of people. Wow. You know what that equals? They're wrong millions of times. But people are assigned this genetic makeup, and it follows them around like conviction, pretty much. Yeah. Like, you can only reach this lot in life because of your genetic but it's like all the stuff in there. It's 1 in 100 chance. Now, he was given until the age of 3 to live, really. And here he is in his late 20s, bucking the system. Yeah, he's always been fighting. Yeah, it's a stick it to survive. It's a stick it to the man type movie. To best his brother or match his brother. But it's really interesting, like, when they get into it, like how he goes about fooling people and stuff like that in like ways that you can never imagine. But it also took teamwork. He needed help. Jude Law is the tragedy in the movie. Like, he's the tragic character in the movie. And you wind up not liking him and then liking him and then really, being like, why did he have an ending like that? Unfortunately. But, in his world, that's Yeah.
he, you know,
I really enjoyed it. You know, I really like the sci-fi world they set up, and it definitely has more weight now than it did in 97 when it came out.
Sure.
Because like I said, this technology to do all this stuff. We just had a doctor in China who was arrested because he actually took babies that he was that he was doing genetic makeup on, and before they were implanted, he removed the gene for cancer. It sounds like a great thing, but it's so untested. He did it without the parents' knowledge and stuff like that. He's going to jail for it. So there is like kind of like an international worry that like, while we have this technology, how will we use it, or should it ever be used?
Yeah,
it's still like we have the technology to clone. However, there's international laws that prevent cloning a human from taking place. But we can clone organs. So how long before the line gets blurred? And you're fooling yourself if you don't think some scientist has cloned a human out there. It's been done.
They've done it before.
It's been done. They can't write a report about it, so they'll go to jail, but it's been fucking done. So we have the technology to do these things. So watching this, it kind of feels like this is not too far off. I'm
happy you finally saw it, because I knew this was going to be right up your wheelhouse.
I bet you in 1997 they felt like that too. So maybe in another 20 years you could still go watch this movie and go, man, it's not that far off. But my only downside to it is it really does at points reek of the 90s. Like, it just, there are some moments in it where I was like, man, that's so 90s.
Some 90s tropes. Yeah.
So back to one of our listener questions, maybe a Gattaca update. maybe get a reboot of Gattaca. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
I love these sci-fi worlds, that they build, and this one was pretty interesting. I would like to see a little bit more of like the political fallout, like some of the world as a large, like how it dealt with this, because we're seeing a personal story that exists in this world. But I mean, like politicians and stuff are these genetically superior people too. Like, what rights does a person who isn't genetically altered have, or how far does that go? Like, how far does that continue to descend? Because they do believe that at some point as human beings progress, that this is a very real possibility. Millions of years down the line, there will be the genetic superior and the genetic inferior, and we'll almost be like two different species. It's crazy stuff. But Gattaca was a interesting film, definitely made you think, and you can't go wrong when Alan Arkin's in a film.
Never. Mic drop.
All right, so coming up next, me and Jay got to run through this week's news. Now it's time for the news. All right, Jay, we got a bunch of news stories to run through, but most of these don't require too much commentary. So first up, Aquaman 2 is officially in development. I don't think this is a no-brainer, right? It's kind of like their most profitable movie since Wonder Woman, and everything else around the DCEU seems to be falling apart. So Warner Brothers is going to double down on what's popular so they can keep putting shit out. In other DCEU news, Shazam has a post-credit scene, but who will we see in it? So the directors of the film,
it's Superman,
has already said that it is not The Rock. He was asked very blankly, very bluntly, like, is The Rock in this? And he goes, well, we don't know whether The Rock was available. Meaning we never asked. We don't know whether he was available because we never asked if he was available, because we're saving everything for The Rock for Shazam 2 or even his own solo film, Black Adam. So they didn't even ask him to come in. It was never really even discussed. But when asked about Henry Cavill, they were not able to give such a definitive answer. Now, Henry Cavill, we know, had that Instagram video where he's like,
bulking up again.
Right. But yeah, he's bulking up again. But then there was also like the Instagram video where he's like, I'm out. And then they're like, but he might not be out. No one ever officially said
there's not an official statement.
Like Ben Affleck's officially done. Warner Brothers official statement. He's done. Henry Cavill, no official statement from anybody. It's a cryptic Instagram video and then another cryptic one where he's just fucking busting the weights hard. Yeah, it's Superman coming in. Whether that will be like a pass the torch type moment and that might be the last image we get of Henry Cavill's Superman, or whether, it will be the continuation of his Superman
Either
story.
way, I'm happy.
Yeah, so am I. I like Cavill for the role. I like the way he looks. I love Superman with a hairy chest.
Popping out at the top of the costume.
It's perfect. Just so 70s Superman. Next news story. All right, Jay. Hulu is finally developing Leonardo DiCaprio's The Devil in the White City series. This is a film right he bought for about 10 years ago. It is based on the true story of two men in 1893 Chicago World's Fair. One of them was an architect and the other one was a doctor, and the doctor was said to have become America's first serial killer. And that's what this series will involve. It's going to be produced by both DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese as the executive producers. So this actually sounds really exciting to me. First off, I do have like a lot of like trust in Scorsese and the projects that he does. And same goes for Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I remember when he announced this a long time ago. So it is exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird that like all of Scorsese's like longtime projects and, you know, like The Irishman and this are like getting off the ground now. But, you know, I'm excited for both this and The Irishman.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
RJ, in other news, the Terminator reboot finally has an official title. We've been seeing pictures of Linda Hamilton on set. We've seen some pictures of Arnold, you know, in there as well. And this is it. This is the reboot to the Terminator franchise. It is not being directed by James Cameron. However, he is still on to produce this, but it is being directed by Tim Miller. And if you don't know who Tim Miller is, it's because we haven't talked about him since 2016. He was the original director for Deadpool, who eventually got let go from doing Deadpool 2 before production even started, and he apparently got attached to this project. So I'm actually excited because I want to see what Tim Miller can bring to it. I liked his work with Deadpool, but
I think it's a strong possibility he's going to bring a good sensibility to this film, and then it'll be fun.
But here's a red herring for it, though. It is a screenplay by David S. Goyer. Not always the most solid track record.
No.
So we'll just have to wait and see. But I like Terminator. I don't think we've gotten a good Terminator since Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So I'm not sure whether
I'll be honest. I'm not very hopeful.
You're tentative. Yeah, so am I.
And I just from going with the stills that I've seen so far from the movie, not that excited.
It doesn't look much different than Genesis.
They need a really good, no, not at all, which is really surprising. I thought they were going to go a different kind of route.
Right.
But maybe that first teaser trailer is going to make us feel excited about it. They really need a strong teaser trailer to get the fans stoked.
I think so, too.
And they have to. They have to do it. So hopefully it looks a lot different than Genesis. But right now, it's in that Genesis vibe right now.
As of right now, Linda Hamilton, not enough to have me stoked.
No.
RJ, in other news, HBO and all of the actors from Game of Thrones would like you to know that you're going to be happy with the ending. They want you to know that. They want you to know that because they're not going to come forward and be like, shit, it's rubbish. You're not going to want to see it. They're trying to sell a product. They need this to go out on a high note because they have a slew of other series that are coming down the pipeline.
Or they're giving them $1 million bonus just to say that.
So what I want to know is what's worst case scenario for Game of Thrones, how it ends. Like what's the one way you don't want to see it end?
If I was going to say anything, it would probably be like the Lord of the Rings ending. I don't want a long drawn out 40-minute like lullaby goodbye send off to all these characters.
I think if the last episode is like following every character and giving me, the bookend to them, I don't mean like George R.R. Martin's books, but I mean like the definitive end, like this. Yeah. This is where,
I don't want to see, 10 years from now, this is what they're doing.
Exactly.
Oh, and 10 years from now, this character, this character.
This is where Tyrion ended up. This is where this is where Brienne of Tarth ended up. And
I don't think they will.
And then we have a longing shot of Jon Snow's statue in the crypts of Winterfell.
Exactly.
Which I think is actually a way that it might end, because in the books he always talks about how he was never meant to be down there. And he always feels uncomfortable when he's in the crypts of Winterfell because he doesn't feel like he belongs there. I think it'd be pretty fitting if he is the last king of winter to be buried in the crypts of Winterfell. So
deserving.
I'm saying Jon Snow dies. That's not a bad thing. But I think you're right, Jay. I think that would be the worst way to end it, would be to end everything honestly on a happy note. I want it to be a little bit bittersweet, you know? Yeah. I feel that's kind of the story they've told us the whole time.
Everybody does.
I would like something like, you know, a little hopeful at the end, but also something that also leads you to believe that, you know, Seven Kingdoms are going to be put into turmoil again. Because if you go through the history of like Game of Thrones and like A Song of Ice and Fire, there's always some war. There's always some political turmoil.
Of course.
It's always going on.
Of course.
We're just watching one little snippet
That's
of it.
why bittersweet hopefulness is like the most ideal thing to come across with the ending of this series.
All right, Jay, in a bit of sad news, Oreo, who was the life model for Rocket Raccoon, has passed away.
Okay.
Jay, I'm telling you, an adorable little animal is dead. He's dead.
Okay.
He's dead.
Okay.
That parrot is dead. He has ceased to be. And in other Guardians news, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will continue to work off of James Gunn's script. No rewriting. So it sounds like the indefinite hold from Guardians of the Galaxy, if they're starting to release news like this, it's getting ready to get lifted, which means, Jay, they're getting ready to find a director. Someone is being vetted right now to be the director.
Oh, yeah. We'll get some new news and probably and within 2 months probably about this.
A lot of people have turned it down though. Like Taika Waititi was asked, he turned it down. You know, they've been going through a gamut of directors
I could see it
who were
because
all standing behind James Gunn.
Well, not just that, but there are also directors that would want a hand in the script.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know, this is you're a shooter now. They're hiring a shooter because they can't tinker around.
So it's going to be. So you're telling me it's going to be Ron Howard?
It could be.
Maybe Disney.
Ron's like, hey guys, look at me over here.
Maybe Disney can make good on firing Lord and Miller from Solo and bring them in and do this because they would fit this.
They would fit. They would
fit this.
That's not a bad idea.
But are Lord and Miller just like gonna,
they might
double middle finger in the air? Like, fuck you guys.
Because they can't tinker with the script. You know?
Yeah, that's true. All right, Jay, you have one final bit of news, which is a little sad to me because I was very excited for this.
Me as well. World War Z. Done.
Yeah, there is no more sequel to World War Z. They have closed production on it. And when I say closed production, like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 when they closed that, except this is a little bit more definitive. They paid everybody and told them go home.
Yeah, it's red light now.
Yeah,
it's over.
And the report is that budgetary restraints.
I agree, and I think this is something that they came into blows with in the first movie. It was a long, horrible production, budget issues, story issues,
for what wound up being a mediocre payoff for them.
For the most part,
it made them money, but it didn't do the gangbusters that it should, in their eyes, should have done.
But also with Fincher attached to it,
right?
It's going to bring a certain kind of level of quality that he's going to expect and want to deliver.
But for the average audience goer, David Fincher is not. I mean, he's a huge name. But he's a huge name for film fans and people, you know, who like going. But for people who just want to see zombies,
if they're trying to make $1 billion off of this, maybe not.
Exactly. I don't think David Fincher's ever the guy you make $1 billion off of. But I'm very saddened by this.
In my mind, he is.
Yeah. But I'm very saddened by this because, you know, I was really looking forward to this. I thought that was the direction that they should have gone the first time around.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they were going to do a little bit of course correcting. I obviously, Brad Pitt's been fighting to get David Fincher in there the whole time, and now it's finally happening, but unfortunately they just don't want to put the money towards it. And
this is pretty sad for me too.
And I'm not sure whether where the budgetary restraints are coming from. My guess is it really comes down to cost of Fincher, cost of Brad Pitt, and you know, the models for the zombies that they used are heavily CGI, and it costs a ton of money to do those massive swarms over a sprawling city. You have to generate the backgrounds as well as the foregrounds and stuff. It winds up being a lot, and they probably would want to keep this in the $70 million range. I would guess it would be kind of like their goal, and I guess what they have in mind is far
200
larger than that. Yeah, at 150 to 200. $100 million, and I just don't think that the studio, that Paramount, was really willing to put that into it. So that's going to do it for our news this week. Me and Jay are going to head over and we're going to do a very special review for some drinks that we got over there. Welcome back to the beer segment. Welcome back to the water segment. Me and Jay are not going to be reviewing beers this week. For the first time in 136 episodes, me and Jay are not drinking during the podcast for a twofold reason.
Yeah.
Jay's dying. He's on his deathbed.
Yeah.
No, you were sick and you had a fever. So
the fever finally snapped today, mid afternoon or so. But still, I'm still sick. I mean, but I'm still in recovery.
If I told you to drink, you were going to do it, weren't you?
I mean, I was going to have like a beer.
Yeah.
For a review.
It's not good for you though.
But
it's not good for you.
I thought it was a cool idea.
Yeah.
Well, all these fancy waters out there in the supermarket.
We're going to review water.
We're going to start reviewing some waters today.
And
just for today only, probably. But you know.
And for me, I haven't been drinking for the entire month of February. I had the one beer back for episode 135, and that, you know, that was it. I'm not drinking while editing. I'm not drinking while playing video games. I'm not drinking in any type of leisure time whatsoever for no other reason than my wife told me I couldn't. and
that's enough said.
And health
right?
reasons too.
Sure.
You know, Lauren was like, you know, you'll lose weight a whole lot faster if you stop drinking. And I don't miss it, so that's a plus. Like, I don't feel like I need a beer like all the time. So
the craving hasn't hit in.
Yeah, no, and I don't think I will at all, because being 2 weeks in now, and
you would have had it by now.
Yeah, being 2 weeks in and feeling fine. You know, I think when all this is said and done, I'll continue having my beer during when we record, and probably not any other time unless like I'm going out or something. Now that
the way it should be, right?
Now that it's not needed, I think I'm cool with letting it go a little bit. But I still got to have my one to review on the show every week. So
of course.
Before we get into reviewing our waters, Jay, you know what goes really well with water? Some blowfish. Blowfish is the only FDA-approved hangover cure. What it is 2 tablets
that you actually drop into water.
In about 8 to 12 ounces of water. You let that dissolve, you drink it down, your hangover starts to feel better. Not a problem for you and I right now. However, what's in blowfish may actually help you get a little pep back in your step.
It helped my flu.
Yeah, there you go. So it's got multiple purposes. If you would like to check blowfish out for yourself, you can head over to 4hangovers.com. That's FOR hangovers.com. Use our promo code SMBFish to get your 15% off. Jay, as we've been doing all year, we have a indie pod to put a spotlight on, and this week's indie pod is a dash of science. So I'll let Chris tell you what it's all about.
Hey, you ever hear people ask how we evolved from apes when apes are still around and realized you didn't know?
All the time.
Can't figure out how we don't have a cure for cancer or even how cancer works?
What is cancer?
Check out our show, A Dash of Science, so you can answer questions like,
if setting off nukes creates nuclear winter, why don't we set off nukes to offset global warming?
That's not how any of that works.
Well, if electricity always follows the path of least resistance, why doesn't lightning always strike France?
That's not even science.
Are you sure? Lightning sounds really sciencey.
I'm Chris, an engineer and scientist.
And I'm Carrie, not an engineer or a scientist.
Together, we break down complex science in language everyone can understand.
And look at everyday topics through the lens of science and logic.
So check out your favorite podcasting app or head on over to a-of-science.com so you can get a dash of science.
All right. And that is one of our newest shows that has been added to the Podfix network, A Dash of Science. And I've actually been binge listening to it a lot lately. You can actually check out 3 amazing episodes that are available right now. They are basically a series that they've done over the past 3 episodes that are all about Isaac Newton. And if you think you know a lot about Isaac Newton based on your elementary and primary school educations, you're wrong. There's so much more to know. So make sure that you head over there to A Dash of Science on any podcatcher if you are scientifically inclined, or even if you're not, even if you just, like having your mind blown just a little bit by things that you were unaware of in your world. You can subscribe to them on iTunes, on any other podcatcher. And if you enjoy the show, make sure that you leave them a 5-star review. Jay, I'm so excited to review these waters.
I am too.
I have sitting next to me, and I gave you one too. Mm-hmm. We have a generic swill water. These are.
I don't think it's swill. I have another, and this is a swill one. This is a local Giant brand.
That's Giant brand, right? I have
spring water.
I have Poland spring water. It's 100% natural spring water. It says it right here.
That's one of the better spring waters, I believe. In my mind.
I'm drinking it, man.
In my mind.
And yeah, you know what? It tastes like water. Now, I have these for a comparison test because I want to see what swill water is compared to these $3 to $4 bottles that we have right here, and what the difference is. So why don't we start off with yours, man? What do you have?
Well, I'm pretty sure I have one of the more expensive bottles of water that are out there. It's called Essentia.
All right.
This one has been out over the last few years because they brag about being the highest purified water. So it's like 9.5 pH balance.
It's funny.
So it's like one of the most highest pH balanced waters out there.
Mine claims the same thing.
Yeah. Well, as they do, as competitors, right? That's
yeah.
In the competing markets of water. So it's ionized hydration, and it's not bad. It's not bad. It leaves my mouth a little on a crisp, dry side, I would say.
Yeah,
not as hydrated as I thought I would, get from it.
No, but you're but you're scientifically hydrated.
I'm scientifically hydrated. Yeah. But it's not leaving my mouth feel as hydrated
it's the illusion
as I thought
of hydration.
Yes.
All right, so I have Life WTR, Life Water, and this is purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. And man, this is so it's purified water, and it's purified by reverse osmosis with magnesium sulfate and potassium bicarbonate. Man, it is absolutely just like the water that is in my Poland spring bottle. It tastes almost exactly the same. Man,
I'll tell you what though, you have Fiji water before, right?
I do.
Some people, and I know it for a fact, it does taste quote unquote like heavier water. If that makes any sense.
Nope.
I don't know.
If my water's heavy, it means I have a calcium buildup in my pipes.
I've had conversations about that before. Like back in the day, it used to be like Fiji or the French water, Evian. Those were the two highest, like fanciest waters out there at the time. Right. This was like 10, 15 years ago.
And then Voss water came out.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I like Fiji because it's a little, like, got a little more heavier mouthfeel to it.
I guess. And it's $4 a bottle. And, this Poland Spring was about $4 for 24 of them.
Right.
And this Life Water was probably $3 to $4 for this 16 ounces that is here in front of me. And Life Water says they exist to advance the sources of creation and creativity, refresh your mind, and restore your body.
Wow.
They describe these things like how they describe beers, like it's crafted. Like this water is it's water. It's no different than any other water. It's no different. I will say it's different than the tap water that's in the tap. I'll go far enough to say that. However, they still say that the tap water is probably still better for you.
Yeah. They do say that. Yeah. They say, like, really when it all comes down to it, I mean, you're fine, especially where we live. Yeah. I mean, we're safe.
What do you think? You think the beers we drink are being brewed with Life Water, or are they being brewed with water that's being drawn from the Delaware River?
A hose. Yeah.
We've been to breweries. There's not a giant Evian, tank where they're squirting water from.
That'd be hilarious.
They have a hose hooked up to a spigot that's hooked up to the city water line.
That'd be an expensive beer.
Right. So my review for this water is it's water. And I can't get it any other grade.
I can't really. I don't know how to grade it. I mean, I'm just going to give it a water grade.
It's water. It's water. It's an essential element.
It's another water.
We need it to survive, and it's got that going for it.
Yeah.
And if you are really
if you'd like to challenge us on our reviews, please reach out to us and give us your take.
I want Chris from A Dash of Science to tell me.
I would like to hear Chris's take on
the difference between the life water, the essential water, and swill water in store brand water bottles. And I do know one difference. These are made with less plastic, these bottles. So
good for them.
They are less detrimental to the environment, or so they say. They all end up in the Pacific on Trash Island anyway, so who cares? Who cares?
Actually, they did come out with boxed water, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think I've heard about that. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Save the
It's probably in California.
Probably.
Yeah,
So-
all the Hollywood stars are drinking it.
Coming up next, me and Jay got 2 5-minute-ish reviews to do. I got out and I got to see a slightly early screening of Alita Battle Angel, and Jay finally saw the documentary that he's been screaming about, Free Solo. So stay tuned. RJ, each of us got out to the theaters this week, and we actually got to see some new movies, which is kind of a new experience for us in 2019. That's been a whole lot of new that we've been getting out there to see. But why don't you tell us about the film that you got out there to take a look at this weekend?
Well, I believe technically this is a 2018 release, but you finally got to our theaters locally, and I went to see an IMAX showing, which is optimally what I wanted to see this movie in, because
you actually went to go see this movie once, and
that's
the
true.
theater shut down.
That
and then
is
you
true.
had to come back to do it again.
2 weeks later, I think 2 or 3 weeks later.
Does it feel different to be up there without a rope?
It's obviously like much higher consequence.
People who know a little bit about climbing, they're like, oh, he's totally safe. And then people who really know exactly what he's doing are freaked out.
I've thought about El Cap like for years, and every year I'm like, that's really scary. I'll never be content unless I at least put in the effort. El Cap is the most impressive wall on Earth.
It's 3,200 feet of sheer granite. It's the center of the rock climbing universe.
Obviously, I get interview questions about it all the time. Oh, would you like to do that? And you're like, yes, for sure.
So it follows Alex Hanold, and he is striving to become the first person ever to free solo climb Yosemite's 3,000 feet high El Capitan wall.
No, well, you said Yosemite. Yosemite. I can't cut this out. I have to leave that in. You said Yosemite. It's a national park, Jay, in California.
Okay.
There is a Warner Brothers cartoon character named after it.
How you say it?
Yosemite.
Oh.
Yosemite Sam. You never heard of him? My biscuits are burning.
God, I'm gonna get torn up for this.
Yeah. Me and Logan did watch Space Jam this weekend, so Yosemite, El Capitan.
All right.
I can't write this shit. I know some people think like I fake like some of your flubs.
No,
like we staged them.
No,
I can't not do.
I'm that fucked up. I know.
I'm so literal. We'll blame it on the cold medicine this week, and we'll move
we can.
on. Yosemite.
And I can't talk for too long, otherwise my throat goes crazy. But
Yosemite Sam.
Are we still rolling? I don't know.
Yeah, we're still going.
Okay. So obviously I can't speak, but with no ropes or safety gear, he plans and prepares and completes arguably the greatest feat in rock climbing history. So obviously now we watch this gorgeous display on film by the filmmakers and the climbers and, you know, these engrossing people that are obsessive about climbing and doing these kind of feats, and to logistically try and pull it off, weather-wise, certain time periods during the year that you can logistically climb these things.
Right, when there's been no rainfall and there's no moss or anything slick growing on a wall.
Yeah, there's a lot of little intricacies to it. But also seeing the history of failed climbers and those kind of things. And
because they are cheating death. This is no lines, this is no nets, this is no
And it does
safety.
tap into the psychological aspect of it, because he does have a new girlfriend throughout this documentary, and she's probably as cool as it gets.
Right.
But even still,
he's like, don't get too attached, I might fall.
Well, kind of, yeah. But also, he would forever, when he did free solo by himself, he would do it by himself without telling anybody ahead of time, because he didn't want that blowback, that the overbearing emotional aspect coming back at him,
right,
to get in his head and fuck him up.
His headspace. Yeah.
So I get it, and he does. I think they actually did go to a test, and he's missing quite a bit of that fear lobe, whatever you can say, in someone's brain. He doesn't have that kind of strong activity response to fear, which makes sense, so you don't have that emotional,
right, where me and you might
crutch.
get 10 feet off the ground and go like, nope, fight or flight, I just flew, I'm done, I'm going down and I'm walking away.
Exactly. Which, but overall, he does accomplish the climb, and it is well shot, it's really cool, this and that. It's still, it's an experience movie, you're seeing this visual treat, before your eyes, and it's still hard to wrap your head around how difficult that really was, strengthening wise. Like the little intricacies of the climb itself was insane. It's so hard to fathom, but you still walked away feeling a little flat. And when you were describing Won't You Be My Neighbor earlier, the documentary, and how overall of a complete movie that is, and the message more than anything that, you walk away with it, this does not have that. And I am surprised that this one is nominated for an Oscar.
But it has...
And Won't You Be My Neighbor is
It has something that Won't You Be My Neighbor doesn't. It has visual
cinematic spectacle.
Exactly. I mean, that's and I think,
and you could be judging it by that. That's true.
I mean, right. There is some technical prowess to the way this film was shot, and the brilliance of using IMAX cameras for these beautiful landscape shots that that have a guy climbing a rock in it. But I think from maybe a little bit more personal aspect of him, and why getting into the psychological aspect of why he does it might give other people might give you a better through line to it, and tell a better story, which no matter what in a documentary, you're still being told a story. You're just getting it done with chosen facts rather than having it written for you. But yeah, I didn't really have an interest in seeing this, and I know from what I've heard from several other people who saw it, is that if you're not going to see it in IMAX, don't bother going to the theater to see it at all, because there's really no other reason to go.
I agree with that. I do. I mean, it's one of those things. I do know a couple people that are very immersed into this world and rock climbing. One in particular who used to live in this area, and I used to semi-party with, but he literally became the Alex sort of kind of guy.
Okay.
He lives in a van with a dog.
First off, I am 35 years old. I am divorced, and I live in a van down by the river.
And out in Colorado, he just fucking climbs. He does odd and end jobs, smokes a lot of weed, and climbs. He's in that world.
Good for him.
But I wanted to get a little bit more. I wanted to feel that a little bit more. I wanted to feel like I wanted to rock climb the next day. I wanted to take away that to some degree.
You wanted to get active.
I wanted that hero role. Yeah, I wanted to feel it. It doesn't matter if it's a good or bad thing. A lot of times you want to get motivated to
right. When you watch Rocky, you want to stand in a ring and punch someone in the face the next day.
You're not going to be Rocky or you're going to be a championship fighter, but you want to.
You won't even go to the free boxing lesson.
You might even just go to the gym.
Yeah, right.
Just hit the treadmill, whatever.
But you won't even go to the free boxing lesson that you can get. Yeah, you're just okay.
Exactly.
You just the next day you're just like,
I was missing that. I was missing.
I get you. All right. I wanted to become a better person after watching Won't You Be My Neighbor.
And you're still not. No.
But I'm still. I think I'm a better person, Jay. I let you take the day off yesterday instead of making you come in and record while you were sick.
And you even offered 2 days in a row.
I know. Dave last week wouldn't have done that. But Dave Post, won't you be my neighbor, gives you the day off. How do you feel about that? I even told you that it was okay if you missed Serenity because you were gonna have more time to watch it.
I should have just stopped after 50 minutes in. Yeah.
All right, Jay. So my 5-minute-ish review that I did was I got to see Alita Battle Angel 1 week before it was being released.
I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. There are watchers all over the city, and I see everything.
She is threatening the natural order of things. Destroyed the girl called Alita.
I do not stand by in the presence of evil.
Alita Battle Angel is the story of a 300-year-old cyborg discovered in a dump with no memories. She is rebuilt and ready to take on the injustices of her new society while seeking the answers to the ultimate question of life. Who is she? The world of Alita Battle Angel, the way I was looking at this, halfway through, I was like, man, it's the color aesthetics and just this sci-fi world. It's like part Blade Runner, but part like Mad Max. Like it's somewhat dystopian, but it's so far flung into it takes place in the 26th century.
Yeah.
That, it's like a mixture of both. But I actually really enjoyed the world. Like the world aspect of it was really well done. I like the world. I like the technology that's in it. And I like that there's, you don't question it at all. It's just, it just is a part of it and it feels lived in and these characters all feel at home in it. So it's written and produced by James Cameron and directed by Robert Rodriguez. And the film actually feels like a blend of these two filmmakers' styles. It's got great, beautiful special effects that you really come to expect with a film that Cameron is attached to. And the action is on point and even, pretty fucking violent at times, which is stuff that you would come to expect from Robert Rodriguez. And it's really interesting when you think about the fact that this movie was kind of in development since 1995. James Cameron has been kind of toying with this script and he knew that it was going to take a long time technological wise to get there. And he's been attached to direct it until about 2016 when he realized that everything he's got going on with the Avatar sequels. He was like, I gotta step away. And that's when they got Robert Rodriguez to come in and direct it. So it's kind of like an interesting place where most of the pre-production stuff that's been done to this has all been done under Cameron's eye. Robert Rodriguez is brought in to shoot it. And that's really it. But I still feel like while watching it, I got a lot of Robert Rodriguez style in it. He was also involved in the casting of the characters.
I always saw that little style flair going throughout it.
Now, I mean, I'll 100% admit that early on in this film's marketing, coupled with the fact that there were reports of behind the scenes issues, I was really disinterested in seeing this. I remember, we didn't even do a trailer park on it at all because I was like, I'm just not interested in it. Nothing looks interesting to me about it because a lot of what the trailers was just kind of showing Alita herself, not really getting into the world too much. But as the release date moved closer and more in-depth marketing was being released, I found myself being really interested in the film. And I don't know much about the manga, and I know that it's a really popular one, but it's got 9 volumes of material to draw from. And it's kind of no small feat that James Cameron was able to fit as much of that story in as he did into this 2-hour movie. The problem is, while it's kind of a big feat that they were able to fit it in there, it also is a drawback as well, because the movie, for me, has multiple tonal shifts in it throughout several subplots and a main plot that by the time you're midway through, you start realizing they're not going to be able to tie all of these loose ends up. And unfortunately, those people that are unaware that they were seeking to create a franchise instead of just a singular experience might be off-putted by this because, this should be called chapter, Alita Chapter 1 Battle Angel, because that is kind of what this is. They're setting off to make a franchise. And I'm not sure with a budget of $200 million with this film coming out in February, if it has generated enough buzz or if the box office will have enough legs to make enough after this big marketing push they just did to warrant a franchise. And that's $200 million that they are reporting, Jay.
I know
that they are reporting, and that's what they reported back in like 2017.
Yeah, not just the reshoots, the marketing.
And this was a film that was originally supposed to come out in July of 2018. Then it was supposed to come out in December of 2018. Then it got pushed back to February. So there was obviously some finishing touches that had to be added, but dude, the special effects are pretty much flawless. Like I really enjoyed the special effects. And I really hope to see more in this world. The story was intriguing enough for me to want to see the conclusion. I may not be like fervent for it. I may not like go to the hilltops and shout like, I love Alita Battle Angel, but I'm definitely interested. And I didn't love every character in the film or buy into their narrative arcs, specifically Jennifer Connelly and her character of Chirin. I did enjoy Alita herself and the characters that she interacted with most. I really got into the story. I thought that the love story that they painted was really well done. And the
overall the casting and everything went.
And there was tragedies in the movie, and I think worked out well too. I thought Christoph Waltz was a little bit muted for him. However, that's, I can't knock the film for not having Christoph Waltz be Christoph Waltz, for having Christoph Waltz actually play a character for once instead of just being himself, which I feel like everything I see Christoph Waltz in, I know exactly what I'm going to get, and I didn't get it here. And that's not really a big problem. He's there to play a different role here.
Sure.
But I really did wind up enjoying the movie a lot. I can't speak enough to the fantastic action and the fantastic special effects. I still think the story could have used a little bit more through line. I think like a clear plot from beginning to end would have helped, instead of there's almost like these subplots. It's almost like she gets to the end of one subplot and goes on to close off another one.
Right.
Almost like they're going through chapters in a manga. Like this is volume 1, this is volume 2, this is volume 3. And and by the time you get to the end, you are ready for this final showdown between her and the villainous Nova. And next time, baby. It's just it almost feels like the carpet is pulled out from under you. The rug's pulled out. You lying flat on your face and you're just like, oh, it's over. Oh, okay.
That's that.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think this movie's going to, I don't think it's going to do the numbers. They were projecting $25 million for its release in December. However, it's actually trending at a little bit lower than that now is what they're saying. So it's made back in its international releases so far. The territories that are getting it a week early, it's made 23% of its budget back. I don't think that the US market, and I believe it's China that still have to go, are going to be enough to really push this over. This is going to be a loss.
Oh yeah.
They're going to lose money on it. And it's a shame because it is worth it for people to go see it. It's just not a property to put butts in the seats. And it won't have enough time, even if word of mouth gets out there to say like, this is fantastic. It won't have enough time between now and March when
but then all the
Captain
other big
Marvel
releases are going to start coming out, and it's not going to have legs.
It doesn't have enough time between now and March when Captain Marvel comes out for it to really make that money. You're not going to need enough butts in the seats, unfortunately. But the film is worth it. Go see it in the theaters, like 100%. It comes out on 14th. Go see it in the theaters.
Good.
It's definitely worth your time. And I think if you're a fan of action, we've seen manga comics and anime be made into movies before to almost no degree of success. Ghost in the Shell did not do it well. This does it well. And her anime eyes and all, you buy it. She's a synthetic human. So,
cool.
You are not bothered by the effects of Alita, which was a big complaint for people seeing the early marketing. It's
a little jarring.
Non-issue.
Okay,
non-issue once the movie starts. In the world, it feels right. So that's going to do it for Super Movie Brothers tonight. If you saw Free Solo, doubtful, or you plan on going to see Alita Battle Angel, let us know what you think of the movies. Reach out to us on Twitter and on Facebook. If you have questions for us, you can always reach out to us anytime on Facebook and Twitter to ask your questions, and we will bring them onto the show. Don't forget to check out our Indie Pod Spotlight, A Dash of Science. You can catch them on any podcatcher. And also, if you would like to cure your hangovers for good, make sure that you check out our sponsor, Blowfish. You can check them out over at 4hangovers.com and use the promo code SMBFish for your 15% off. We are, of course, a part of the Podfix Network. We would like you to enjoy every show that's part of the Podfix Network. So head over to podfixnetwork.com and check out all the shows that we got going on over there. We also run a Patreon, so we have additional content that's out there. Jay has just watched Serenity, and I've obviously seen Serenity a bunch, as well as the Firefly TV series. We promised people a long time ago that we were going to be doing a Patreon exclusive movie cocktail for Serenity, and it's finally happening. So if you would like to check that out, head over to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/supermoviebrospodcast, and you can get all of our additional content up there. We also will be posting a new 8-bit theme challenge for 90s cartoons, which was a lot of fun for me to do because I remember a lot of 90s cartoons, and the guest that I had on, not too dissimilar from myself, I will say.
Very good.
I want to thank all of you for listening tonight. Have a great night, and cheers.
Cheers.